Mobility Matters. I'm your host, Javier Betancourt, Executive Director of the Citizens Independent Transportation Trust, or CITT. We're a quasi-independent agency of Miami-Dade County charged with overseeing your half-penny sales tax for transportation. So as you know, we've had some amazing guests on the program in the past to talk about mobility and transportation and issues related to it, such as development, resiliency, and whatnot. And today, of course, we continue the tradition of amazing guests with the Mayor of Doral, Christy Fraga.
Yes.
Mayor Fraga, thank you for being on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for the invitation. Such an important topic, not just for our city, but I think Miami-Dade County and the South Florida and the region, really.
Absolutely. And I have to give a shout out also to Miami's community newspapers.
Yes.
Who host and produce this program. Thank you for your continued partnership.
Yeah.
And by the way, of course, they produce newspapers, as their name would imply, and one of those is the Doral Tribune.
Yep.
I'm sure it's a paper you know and love well. So
yes.
a little shout out to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, Madam Mayor, first of all, tell us about yourself. Obviously, you're an elected official, but I believe you've also served in other capacities at the city and other elected bodies. And then what do you do for a living?
So I have had the great honor of serving the Doral area for just under 12 years now. I started as a councilwoman. I did 8 years as a councilwoman in the city of Doral, city where I grew up. I've been there for 25 years. We moved there in 1999. And I also served on the Miami-Dade County School Board for 2 years. Yeah. And then I came back as mayor 2 years ago. Normally our terms are for 4 years, but I was finishing the term that was left vacant by the former mayor. Mm-hmm. And so now, God willing, November, I will be reelected and have 4 full years. I'm an accountant. I studied finance and accounting at FIU, and I have my own company. I specialize in real estate acquisition, which is what our company does, and we manage large commercial properties, own large commercial properties, and then mostly stick to the accounting and financing of those acquisitions. So
fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm sure the accounting and finance experience comes in handy.
It definitely
and running
helps.
a local government,
it definitely helps. Very different, believe it or not, accounting, government accounting, but it definitely does help to understand a bit of it. But government budgeting and finance is very different.
Right. Yeah. You want to know what someone's priorities are, look at their budget, right?
Yes,
it's all about the money at the end of the day.
That's very true, yeah.
And one of the sources of funding, of course, that the city receives
CITT
is your local share of the half-penny funds.
Yep.
And the city has done great things with it. So tell us about some of the mobility and transportation projects and services that the city has utilized your share of the funds
So
for.
as you know, I think it's 80% of our CITT funds have to go to actual transit and mobility.
It's a minimum of 20, but we encourage more. Yes, it's the other way around.
So we use 80%.
Yes.
Right? I'm looking at Rita, who's our transportation expert and deputy public works director.
And fantastic, by the way.
Yes,
she's a great pleasure to work with. She's off camera, but she's here.
Podcast with me. But so we use 80% is what we do. We use 80% of it to fund our actual trolley. Mm-hmm. We may actually even be using 100% now, right? Because we added more.
We're using like over 80%.
Oh, definitely over 80%. I know we're using on actual public transportation, so our trolleys. So we expanded greatly. I remember when I came in 2012, we had 2 trolleys, and now we're up to 30 on our
16, we're 16, we're buying 8.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have 16, we're buying 8. Some of them may have to be retired out or refurbished, but that's the idea, is to have a large fleet to be able to make our system much more efficient, easy to use. We've added last year we budgeted for 10 new bus shelters that are actually covered, because I hate to see just the bench.
Right. In our climate,
you need to have covered bus benches, but they're more expensive. So we've been slowly replacing them. Last year was a big year where we did 10 in 1 year, and so the idea is to create efficiency and encourage people to use public transit. So we've used our CITT funds to really fund public transportation versus road repairs and things like that.
And how many trolley routes are there now? Because I know you have several. We have 4 routes.
Yeah, there's 4 routes.
That's great.
That's one of the things that I want to change, and we're doing right now a study to improve our trolley routes. We've approved a master transit plan, but we definitely I would like to change our trolley routes, because I think that we need more direct routes. One of the things I did as a councilwoman was I created the FIU route. So we have a route on 107th Avenue. I worked with, at that time, President Mark Rosenberg to create this route that connected the students and staff and people who lived in Doral that go to FIU. It's a direct route on
major employment center.
Yeah, and it's a direct route. We're right on 107th Avenue, and so we were able to get approval because it does go outside of our city for about a mile.
Right.
And you have to get approval for funding. We actually got a grant for I think 3 years from the TPO to fund it.
Right.
I was able to get some private sector developers to donate the trolleys, and we were able to put a route on FIU that connected that final mile. And so it's very well utilized because it's a direct route. It stays on 107th Avenue and only veers off to go into the student housing and then into FIU through 109th, but then goes back on 107th, stops at the engineering campus, at the mall. So it's a great connector. And so the idea that I would like to mimic and is to duplicate routes like that they're more direct, shorter on, you have more like a grid type system where our trolleys connect and you're not kind of having to figure out what route to take, where you have to get off to get on to get to the metro, but that it's just a little bit more common sense type
more
of
streamlined
type
absolutely.
of. So hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. One of our issues for being able to do that was that we didn't have enough trolleys.
Right.
So you need to be able to have enough trolleys to meet the demand and put them on the road so you're not waiting 45 minutes to an hour for a trolley. The other
we know
thing,
there's a lot of demand for those trolleys. A lot of the cities feel like we're ready to buy them, but
they're taking a year to come in, right? Are they still?
Easily,
it's still taking a year to come in. Yes. So I also want to explore the opportunity to put in smaller buses or smaller, automobiles. We've also incorporated freebie into our transit, into our micro transit system. So we have 2 freebie programs. We have one that circulates in our dense downtown Doral downtown area, and then we have other ones that are solely for 65 and over for the senior citizen population. Okay. It's a free service that does circulate throughout the entire city, but to key points that they need to go to. Okay. So they could call if you're 65 and over and you're signed up for the program, you get that transportation service for free. And so all of that is being funded with CITT funds.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for putting it to good use. And now you use the bulk of your funds for transit, which is great. And by the way, you didn't mention it, but I know for a fact that you're also connecting to the larger transit system to Metro Rail.
Yep, absolutely.
I believe it's the Palmetto Station.
Yep, Palmetto Station. And that's another thing we want to explore is maybe even connecting to like Miami International Airport. Okay. We have a lot of hotels. Yeah. So we're looking at all those possibilities.
So thank you, because that interconnectivity is extremely important, right? We're not on silos into our own.
And I'm absolutely by no means an expert in this subject, but we have great experts around us that have taught us very well, and it's something that I'm definitely interested in and have tried to research and study and understand better to make better decisions for our community.
Now, in addition to transit, which you're doing an amazing job in, I don't know if you use any of your funds or even beyond the surtax funds. Yeah. What is the city doing in the bicycle pedestrian space? I know it's a tough city because it's so suburban and you have so many trucks and all those things, but I imagine you're doing something because you're such a progressive city. We do have
a bike network system, and we do have, it's part of our trail network, and I believe we have about 27 miles complete. Yes, we have about 27 miles complete. So it's difficult to connect it all. Like somebody asked me yesterday, I was at Doral Central Park, and they're like, what bike network connects to here? And I'm like, that's a great question. We don't really have one. You have to take the main roads to get to use, it's not like our bike network connects directly to Doral Central Park. So it's definitely a challenge that we have to continue to improve on and explore. But we do have a lot of it that does connect, and it is well utilized. I will tell you, Doral, I think, is one of the cities that you see a lot of pedestrian and a lot of bike usage, and now the scooters too.
The scooters, right? Micromobility.
Yes, micromobility. So
they have their challenges.
Yes. And I was actually in the Netherlands last year. I didn't go with the TPO. I know they did their own trip, but I was actually there on my own. And I looked at how that bike network works and the configurations of it. It's definitely interesting. I'll be honest, I think it's a little messy, but I guess once you're used to using it, it makes sense. Yeah. I was very confused by it, but what I think that the success of it lies in that they have their own lanes with their own lighting, and so it really just looks like it's like a mass like blob of bikes coming through, just like it would be cars.
Right.
And so they have their own identified, isolated bike lanes and even synchronization of lights, which
makes it safe
helps
for everybody, right?
which helps the movement of it. Now, we here in South Florida struggle with something which is our climate,
Right.
you know, and the elements, which is rain and excessive heat sometimes. And so when you have professionals who have to go to work in suits, I think it's hard for them to choose to ride a bike. And so I would hate to spend a lot of money on this infrastructure that's not going to be utilized like it would be in some other areas of the world that have the climate for it, 7-8 months out of the year.
So here's the trick. So I used to commute by bike to work, 10 miles in each direction. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Rain and heat and sweat. You don't want to show up to work wet and sweaty, right?
Yeah.
So the solution is, and it's fairly easy, it's showers. So, I was blessed that in my place of employment, there's a gym. So I joined the gym and there's a shower. So I would shower there and I would keep all my clothing at work. So I agree with you that is a challenge, but it's not one that can't be overcome.
But
if you also look at the land use side and equip buildings, particularly
100%.
employment centers with shower facilities.
But you have an advantage I don't have.
Which is?
You don't have hair.
Verdad. This is true. Thank you for pointing that out to everybody. I mean, it wasn't obvious.
So, getting drenched on the way to work, even if I have to go and shower, it's like now I have to blow dry my hair. It's a lot more time. So I understand.
This is a good point.
But there's a lot to think about when you're.
There's a solution there
decisions.
too. Everyone just needs to shave their heads and we'll be fine.
Okay. I don't know about that, but yes.
You heard it here first. I'm going to start a trend in Miami.
But I think that there is definitely options to improve, and yes, infrastructure. And I try to explain that a lot in our community too. When they talk about development and mixed use, and it's in theory, a lot of it sounds great and makes sense, but everybody has to buy into the model for it to actually be effective.
Yeah, and none of these things happen overnight,
no,
right? It's an incremental progress.
I tell people that all the time. I'm like, understand that we're building for the future. We're not building for right now. If we're building for right now, we're continuing to make mistakes. So you have to build for the future. Responsibly, thoughtfully. I think that's important. But you do have to think about how tomorrow's generation or the next generation is going to choose where they want to live, how they're going to get there, and then build for that.
And by the way, I think Doral is a model in this, because who would have thought 20 years ago? I mean, Doral it's all industrial.
Yeah.
Yes, there was some suburban development, but who would have thought that the Doral of today with city center and downtown Doral, and you've really become a real city, whereas before you were just kind of this industrial and office park community with some scattered, single family housing. But someone took the leadership, to envision a better future and work towards it.
And Doral had a great opportunity and something you don't often see, which is we kind of had a blank slate in a lot of areas because a lot of the city wasn't developed. So we had a lot of land to make those decisions and to design really an urban city with those elements in mind, right? So you really were able to say, this is the area you want for downtown, this is the area you want more suburban and traditional neighborhood. Right. And also protecting those characteristics of the commercial and industrial, because they are important sectors, not just for our city. It's what allows us to keep our millage rate really low, but also for Miami-Dade County. We are an economic hub. We're very close to the airport. So a lot of those areas of the city do need to be protected, and you want to make sure that the industrial areas are being used for that, for its an initial intent. And so I think that's a tough balance to keep, but it's one we very much have to be mindful of.
And you're doing a great job with it, I have to say.
Thank you.
I've been really impressed. And Doral has succeeded, right?
Yes.
I mean,
it has. I mean, we have, it's yesterday, again, I was talking to someone about Doral, and they were saying how the culinary scene has changed so much, and they're a chef, and they were saying how he thought 10 years ago of opening up in Doral, and he didn't. He opened up in Coconut Grove, and now he's like kicking himself for not opening up in Doral.
He missed the window.
Yeah, and it's Doral has definitely evolved to be a cultural hub, a culinary scene. We've really got everything. People don't have to leave Doral to enjoy and have the social life and really take in all those what you would get like in a city of Miami or Coral Gables. You know, no tienen nada que envidiarnos anymore. You know, it's like we have everything you need to really enjoy with family and friends. And
downtown Doral to me reminds me so much of Miracle Mile, and I don't know if that was by design, but I mean literally the way the buildings are placed with the flanks at the opening, it's Miracle Mile.
I think it was in an effort to correct the things they didn't do correctly in Miracle Mile, but yes, we have a lot of that feel, and there's
your
a lot
city
more
hall
coming.
Is beautiful too.
Yes.
Great city hall.
Yeah. There's great things happening in Doral. Our parks also, if you haven't visited Doral Central Park, we have phase 2 opening at the end of January, early February. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I think definitely a park that the entire county would be very proud of. It's got everything. One of the largest parks in Miami-Dade County. So there's great things happening. There's a lot of redevelopment happening, which is important in some of those areas too, because it gives us the opportunity to improve for transit and housing and things that we don't have, inventory we don't have.
And I know one of the challenges, so we talk about transportation mobility, obviously, but the flip side of that coin is land use and development and housing.
They go hand in hand.
And we have a huge workforce and affordable housing crisis in Miami-Dade. Is that something that the city is trying to tackle, and how does what's the Live Local Act kind of play into that?
That's a little controversial for me, but yes.
We like controversy in the show.
No. But yes, and so here's the thing. I think that Doral was very we had a lot of foresight with the housing crisis and the need, and in 2014 we incorporated in our code, in our comp plan, incentives for workforce housing before anybody else was doing it, modestly, but we did it. And we did have a development that took advantage of it and did incorporate workforce housing into it, which is the Shoma, where Shoma Bazaar is. It was called Contempo. I think it may have sold now and they changed the name, but it's right off of 41st Street and 92nd Avenue. And that is, it's a model for what we wanted to incentivize for workforce housing. My issue with Live Local Act, and I was actually the first mayor to pass a moratorium on it when it passed, understanding that the intent was well intended, and I understand that there's a need to expedite workforce housing in South Florida. But when you have a community like Doral that has a lot of organic growth, and we have a challenge of protecting our industrial areas and commercial areas, you really put at risk that balance that we've created and have so thoughtfully put together, right? That has made it this incredible city by state government completely just stepping over local government and preempting over local government. You really make it a challenge for us to do the job that we were elected to do, which is, keep the quality of life of our residents. We're the ones that are knocking on their door and listening to them, and they're the we're the closest government to the people. And it really does affect our quality of life when there's just these carte blanche decisions made that we have no say in. I think that the legislation would have much better served transit-oriented districts or areas that needed incentives for development. South Florida, Miami-Dade County, Doral did not need a incentive for development all over. I think there was strategic areas that could have used this type of legislation, but I think in our city really does put our quality of life at risk, and more importantly, it puts our industrial areas and commercial zones at risk. And that's something that I'm not in favor of, and that does concern me. And so I did get very heavily involved, and there was changes to the legislation that I think improved it a little bit.
I think there's more coming, no?
We were still preempted further. And they added into the legislation that you couldn't pass moratoriums. But I did it for the purpose of allowing our team the opportunity to take a breather, study the law, and implement code in our development code to help us with the issues that we could manage and we could police, which was, setbacks and landscaping and parking. Those, we weren't preempted in those areas, but our code did not contemplate development of this type in industrial areas or in commercial, because we would have never allowed it.
Right.
So we did have to take a step back, review our land development code and now put in safeguards where we had the ability to do it through the state legislation. Right. So I think we were all in our right to put a moratorium and say, okay, you pass this law, now give us a chance to, make the arrangements in our land development code to absorb these changes that we weren't prepared for. Right. We received immediately 2 applications. Okay. One for an 18-acre parcel, so huge impact, right next to a traditional neighborhood. They wanted to put 14-story buildings, and people were definitely upset and concerned, and very well, rightfully so.
And it's not just the aesthetics, right? It's the impact to the infrastructure, to the roadways, to the water and sewer. And then they get these
huge tax breaks. Yeah. Okay, right. So now I've got a developer coming in to build these apartments and all this infrastructure, all this development, and I'm not even potentially, because if they meet a certain threshold, they don't pay the taxes for 30 years. So now I'm not even getting the tax revenue for it.
Wow.
So how do you expect me to provide the service for 700-800 new people and apartments and not get the tax revenue for it?
You mean the state that imposed this on you is not cutting you a check to cover this?
Oh, no. But I still have to provide the police services
of course.
And all that infrastructure and all those services. So it's really concerning, and I do hope they take a better look at it. Again, I understand. I don't think the intent was bad. We all know that housing here has become extremely expensive, and there does need to be solutions, but what I'm saying is that the solution for one is not necessarily the solution for all when it comes to planning and zoning and development.
Yeah, and one of the things I've learned in my many years of government, there are no easy solutions. These are tough decisions. They're often competing interests. To improve one thing, you're taking away from something else. So I admire those of you. Bless you.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I really do admire people who take the time out of their lives to try to tackle these issues. It's not easy. It's not as easy as people think. So thank you for your leadership.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really grateful for your gratitude for that. But we're also human, and you pinch me, I bleed just the same. I'm always learning as well. It's not my expertise. I rely on experts to give us,
like
to give us their advice and consultation. And I listen a lot to the community too. I really believe in having, it's a two-way street. I need to hear what people are saying, because my thoughts or ideas or vision may not necessarily be what the communities wants. Just because you're in the majority doesn't mean you represent the majority all the time. I've learned that. And so it's very important to listen and understand and make sure that we're, putting the interests of our community first always.
Fantastic. Yeah. Madam Mayor, we are out of time, unfortunately.
Thank you. This is great.
Happy to have you back and discuss these issues and others further. But I want to thank you again, not only for being on the program, but for your service and your leadership.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Looking forward to continuing to serve our beautiful city of Doral.
Thank you, Rita, and thank you to this great city of Doral and your team. You're doing amazing things.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So, folks, that's all the time we have here on this segment of Mobility Matters. You can catch us here every other Thursday from 9 to 10 a.m. for wonderful discussions like this one on mobility, transportation, land use, workforce, housing, you name it. We talk about it here. Yeah. If you want to learn more about us, please visit our website at www.miamidade.com/CITT. We are looking for members to join our trust. So if you're interested in being a part of the solution, you can volunteer with us. And we're also looking for people to be CITT ambassadors. These are regular riders of the transit system who act as our eyes and ears on the system, and in return you get points that you can exchange for rewards. So there's an incentive there. You can find all of that on our website. Thank you for joining us. Till next time.